Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina. We're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Let me remind you that this week I'm doing something a little different and presenting a Lenten series I preached in 2008, portraying some people around the cross. You may imagine today's presentation as over and over throughout the sermon, I wiped my hands with a towel. I wish I could sleep. Every night it's the same. I'm awake long after everyone else has gone to sleep, tossing and turning and wrestling with my blanket. And then finally I drop off into a fitful rest, only to suddenly jerk awake to stare into the moonlight again. Nothing helps. Oh, how I wish I could sleep like I used to, like I could in the days before, to rest so peacefully and calm, so quiet. I guess I am the only man who would be glad if you had never heard of me. And you wouldn't have either. I had just a taste of power and prestige, but I held no illusions of great grandeur. I was an adequate governor, appointed by the Caesar in return for a political favor, and I would have been happy to serve the empire in obscurity. But he changed all that. I wish it had never happened. I wish you had never heard of me. I just wish I could sleep. That's really where it all began, you know. My wife sent me a message that day. I remember it well. Jerusalem was packed with people there to celebrate their holiday called the Passover. I tell you, I will never understand these people. Because of the crowds, I was already at the Praetorium early. But it wasn't long before my wife sent me a note that said, "Please don't have anything to do with that righteous man. I had a dream about him and didn't sleep at all after that." The silly woman. Didn't she know I had weightier concerns than how she slept or some wild dream she may have had? And who was this righteous man? I put it all out of my mind and went on about my business. Jerusalem was boiling with tension. As I stared out over the city, I could feel it, and I couldn't help but think of what had happened when I first arrived to govern this strange and stubborn people. I had entered the city, and the first thing I had done was to put stations of guards everywhere with a Roman standard as a symbol of my authority. They should be reminded, I thought, of who is really in charge here. Let's get things straight right from the start, I thought. But the whole place went into an uproar. The standards were nothing but gold discs with the image of the emperor on it on top of a tall pole. A graven image, they called it. They protested, and I sent out the guards with swords drawn, and they looked at the soldiers and bared their necks, inviting the soldiers to strike. I had no choice. The standards were removed. So instead, I mounted a couple of shields over my doorway. There were no images, and it was just my own door. One shield had my name on it, the other the emperor's. And yet, they claimed that even these violated and defiled their holy city. I refused to take them down, but they sent a delegation to Tiberius himself, and soon I was ordered to remove the shields and warned that they had better not hear back in Rome of any more trouble in Jerusalem. The city felt full of tension just like that again, and my stomach was churning. "First case," I said, and suddenly there before me was the high priest. He smiled his big, fake, solicitous smile and pointed to a man bound with ropes between some guards. We have tried him, Caiaphas said, and have found him guilty. He deserves death, but only you can give that sentence. I looked at him. He seemed harmless enough, and I sent Caiaphas away so I could examine him myself. Jesus of Nazareth. Slowly I realized I had heard the name before. Of course, the miracle worker. I looked at him with new interest. We began to talk, and I could tell right away this man was no threat to the empire. And in fact, I even found that I liked him. You have no real power, he said, and I knew he was right. Power and authority come from above, he said, and at first I thought he meant from Caesar, and then I realized what he really meant. But we have different gods, I answered, and he just looked at me, and I knew my words were just semantics. They hadn't changed the truth about what he had said. I remember during the discussion I asked him, "What is truth?" But as I did, I had the unmistakable feeling that I was in the presence of truth. "I find no fault in him," I said to Caiaphas at last, "but to keep you happy, I will have him flogged." Even that wasn't enough. When it was done, I said again, "I find no fault in him and will release him." But they had incited the crowds to call for his death instead. They got louder and louder and more insistent, and then, just as things reached a fever pitch, Caiaphas said quietly, "If you do not do this, you are no friend to Caesar." I I had no choice. If Tiberius got word of this on top of all the other things, I called for a bowl of water and a towel. In front of them, I washed my hands. "I am not guilty of this man's blood," I said. The crowd responded, "His blood be on us." And then I said, "Then see to it yourselves." I didn't do it. They did. I washed my hands of the whole matter. All I did was not say no. All I did was not say no. Wish I could sleep. Thanks for sharing these moments with me. And remember to let this day belong to God.